In our previous video, we went over how San Antonio beat OKC by relentlessly targeting the Thunder's bigs in pick and roll. So going into the Cup finals against the New York Knicks, that predictably was their same game plan, because similar to OKC, the Knicks bigs also aren't that comfortable stepping up and meeting the ball at the level. So in theory, it should have been another field day for Fox, Castle, and Harper. And to be honest, throughout the night it kinda was. First, if any of the Spurs trio of guards got a head of steam going towards the basket, their in-between scoring and passing was just too much. Again, with Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson sitting back and drop, it was just routine floaters and lob passes. And the thing was, Brunson also had issues dealing with the ball at the point of attack.
Point lead for New York. Castle contact.
So because the Knicks both have a weak point of attack defender and lumbering bigs who aren't that switchable, they were kind of forced to load up and send heavy help from the weak side. But the issue was all of San Antonio's guards had the field to make those cross-court reads. And off the ball, they always have guys who can both shoot and put the ball down.
Ball for Harper, he's trying to do it again.
Now, one brief adjustment that Mike Brown tried to make to start the second quarter was to throw out a little bit of zone defense, but this led to easy penetration and more open shots from three, plus them being vulnerable to offensive rebounding. So because the Knicks have leaky defensive personnel both in the front and backcourt, it was always going to be an uphill battle for them, especially going up against a team with as much backcourt depth as the Spurs have. But they were able to do three things to keep themselves afloat, which was to be more aggressive at the point of attack, stay attached on screening actions, and be early on rotations off the ball. First, in general, blitzing and pushing the ball back obviously puts less pressure on your backline defense, while also giving the floor more time to rotate. And with the top tier playmakers like Luka or Jokic, you can't be vulnerable to more breakdowns. But I don't think anybody on San Antonio is that caliber of a passer. I specifically liked it when Brunson was hard hedging while the Spurs were trying to target him. He may not have the quickest feet, but he does have the physicality to get into the ball and force some turnovers. And again, him just generally pushing the ball back without giving up any mismatches or breakdowns is always going to be a win for New York. And Towns himself also had some success stepping up and meeting the ball at the level.
Mikal Bridges, Fox turns it over.
Now on the ball, obviously the defense of OG, Josh Hart, and Mikal Bridges was huge. All of those guys are elite at navigating through screens while holding their own very well in isolation. This is one of the Spurs' go-to pistol sets, where Devin Vassell, who's setting the screen on the ball, is going to come off this flare screen at the slot. But look how Josh Hart is going to work his way through and get a hand up in the shooting window. Off the bench, I also thought Jordan Clarkson and Tyler Kolek gave the Knicks really good minutes defensively. They were both able to fight through and stay attached on screening actions, plus keep the ball in front and open space without fouling. This is just simple winning defense here by Kolek, where off of these stacked screens, he's going to stunt down and stop the ball, to then rotate back out and meet the shooter. This is more really good one-on-one defense, where he's guarding Dylan Harper here right below half court. And watch him first attack away from the screen, to then wrap the ball behind without breaking stride. But Tyler keeps his hips in front the whole way, and pushes him out into a really difficult leaning floater. This was also a huge play by Clarkson here late in the fourth, where he first switches off the screen to meet Castle with the ball. But on the pickup here, watch him shift back down and break up this pass. Now, regardless of the Knicks finding ways to contain the ball on the perimeter, they still had to send heavy shifts to deal with the ball when it was coming downhill. And on those spray outs, their ability to rotate and contain was probably the biggest factor to their success. And this is where the mobility of their wings was huge. And I thought OG specifically throughout the game was able to plug up a lot of breakdowns by either putting himself in the right spot early or just being able to scramble and take away shots around the basket. And while I wouldn't say he's an elite rim protector, he still has the physicality and lift to offer good resistance down low. Now, when guarding the Spurs, the obvious elephant in the room is Victor Wembanyama. And there was a stretch during the third quarter when things got pretty scary. First, if you don't give him contact while he's rolling in the paint, it's going to be a guaranteed lob dunk. And his ability to score from over the top is pretty much a cheat code. But despite him having a few hot stretches, I thought New York was able to mute him for the most important parts of the game. Because them having multiple physical defenders with a lower center of gravity, they were able to hold their ground and push Victor off his spot. Whenever he tried to put the ball down and attack off the dribble, it was lots of contested and off-balance jumpers. plus rushed pickups for really bad in-between push shots. So again, while Victor did have some moments, he didn't really take control of the game down the stretch. Now overall, I wouldn't say that New York found the secret way to guard San Antonio. I still thought their guards pretty much got into the paint at will, they missed a lot of makeable shots, and Wemby was only on the court for 24 minutes. But at the same time, the Knicks did enough to slow them down. They were able to contain the ball in spots without fouling, mix in some aggressive coverages out of pick and roll to force turnovers, plus they do have the personnel off the ball to rotate and plug up breakdowns. Now when switching over and looking at the Knicks offense, everything starts with Jalen Brunson. And what makes Brunson so unique is that for being a 6'2" and unathletic point guard, the guy can score with literally no space. He's got the strength and ball control to take these really sharp driving angles towards the basket. And he can both bump his way through contact to get into the lane or stop short for in-between jumpers and floaters. And because he's always getting these north to south blow-bys, he's naturally creating the angles to slice past the help defense. As he turns the corner off the screen, there is literally a wall of defenders in front of him. But watch him veer back into contact to then bump and find the space to elevate. Out of pick and roll, Brunson is also elite at running his man into the screen. And again, once he turns the corner and gets a step past him, the strength and pace is just too much to deal with. Look how deep he works Castle here below the arc. And again, he runs him right into the pick, giving himself the space to rise up for another fadeaway across the paint. Now, from a bird's eye view, I wouldn't say the Knicks as a team has a super dynamic offensive approach, but around Brunson, they do have a lot of shot making and off the dribble creation. Josh Hart is a guy that can both knock down open threes and put the ball down to attack aggressive closeouts. This is a nice bump and fadeaway here across the paint. OG's another guy who's shooting over 40% from 3, plus has some good juice as an isolation scorer. Off the catch, he can settle the defense's hands with a variety of jab steps, creating windows for these stare down threes. Or he can take advantage of mismatches below the arc.
Anunoby got bumped, and he can't.
Karl-Anthony Towns also has a really good inside-out presence. He's obviously one of the best shooting big men across the league, while also having the control to abuse mismatches as an over-the-top scorer. And Cat's ability to spread the floor and knock down open looks was very important when going up against a guy like Wemby, because anytime you can pull the best rim protector in the league out of the paint, that's going to be a win. I love this play here. We're off the pitchback. Victor has to close out to take away the 3, but from this spot, Cat can put his foot on the gas and beat him to the basket. So with their personnel alone, there's no doubt that the Knicks have plenty of firepower. But in this game, I think their offensive rebounding was actually the real deciding factor. Both Cat and OG were able to scrap for 4 offensive boards apiece. And with just 18 minutes of action, Mitchell Robinson grabbed 10 offensive boards. And this was huge for New York in the fourth quarter, because over a 4-minute stretch, Robinson's offensive rebounding led to 14 straight points. It was 2 putback dunks and 3 spreadouts behind the line for open trays. And also, many of these boards happened with Wemby on the floor. So for the Knicks, it was pretty much about gutting it out and finding a way to win. If you ask me, I think San Antonio is the more talented team, but the Knicks, however, have a lot more experience. Plus, like we all know, their team as a whole is really good. Brunson is one of the best backcourt scorers in the league. Cat at the 5 position is also a really good inside-out scorer. And while their 2 main guys do have some defensive limitations, the wing versatility has been enough to plug up those weak spots. And then on top of that, their guys off the bench have also been really impactful.